called Outsourcing Economics, Global Value Chains in Capitalist Development. It's an attempt to use this concept called the global value chain to think through the theory of international trade again, the theory of transactions costs economics in relation to international trade, and the dynamics of trade and its effect for employment, wages, growth, and development.
We define outsourcing as the purchases of intermediate inputs from abroad, and this can happen in two ways, either through an arm's length contract or within the boundaries of a multinational corporation. In the book, we argue that the distribution of the gains from globalization is not the result of a set of natural market forces, but it's a result of a set of institutions in which market forces are embedded. And such institutions could be the corporate sector, governments, labor market institutions, civil society, households, or other institutions. In theory, outsourcing should be good for the economy and workers, because this allows firms to reduce their costs of imported inputs and in turn raises their profits, investments, output, and hopefully employment. Firms aren't using their savings to invest into more growth and innovation, but what we found is that they use their benefits or their savings for the benefit of stockholders by raising dividend payments or by purchasing back their own shares to increase the stock price.
This stagnant or declining negative effect, I should say negative effect of offshoring on the wage share in the U.S. economy is fairly pronounced and significant, according to pretty sophisticated econometric analysis of this. And the implication is that there's a wage effect and an employment effect, but the big story is there's a negative effect for economic security. And I think the real issue going forward about globalization is how can its benefits of globalization lead to broad-based increases in economic security. And that's kind of the dilemma that we pose in the book.
Final producers in developing countries no longer need to build up their whole supply chains to be able to export to industrialized countries, but they can rely on existing suppliers elsewhere in the world. So it's easier for them to participate in these global value chains. The problem is there are power asymmetries between lead firms that are mostly based in industrialized countries and the global suppliers in developing countries. And these lead firms can exert some pressure, a big pressure on suppliers, and squeeze their profit margins and force them to lower their prices and costs, and also lower standards, labor standards, for example, which can pose problems for development.
If you do achieve higher upgrading in these global value chains, what are the social consequences? And by social consequences, we took a very crude cut, which was wages, real wages, and employment. And if those aren't rising while you're upgrading, then what's the point of upgrading? In some way, I mean that's putting it bluntly, but what's the point of upgrading if it's not associated with an improvement in the average standard of living? Half the cases in which there's industrial upgrading, social upgrading did not occur. I mean, curiously, what we did find, more precisely, is that social upgrading, defined as this wage and employment increase, occurred only when economic upgrading occurred, but not every time economic upgrading occurred. The word outsourced has a double meaning in the title, because it's obviously a book about the economics of outsourcing, but it's also a play on the word outsource with respect to the economics profession, which we argue has had an inadequate explanation of globalization, a really uncompelling, seeing globalization as a pure market phenomenon, which it is not. It is embedded in an enormous number of complex, rich, political, geographical, gendered institutions. And without capturing that deep embeddedness of the globalization process, economics has not had a very compelling explanation of the phenomenon, and a phenomenon which has affected so many people. It's affected businesses, obviously, and it affects people's feelings of economic security very clearly from all the survey data, and it affects kind of what we're able to buy in the store. So it has enormous effect on all these aspects of our life. It affects what we see culturally and how we experience the world. So globalization needs a rich explanation, and economics has failed us.